Good morning. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Rick, and today we're going to cover how my 2020 Jeep Willys does on the highway. I get a lot of questions about gas mileage, noise level, and things like that from previous Jeep owners who were like me, who are looking at the new Jeeps, trying to figure out if this is a good fit. So I thought I'd put all this in a video since I just did a 260-mile trip up to Flagstaff from Tucson, where I live. And if you're not familiar with Arizona, basically here in Tucson, we're anywhere from 2,000 feet elevation all the way up to about 3,000 feet elevation. Phoenix is lower than us, and then from Phoenix on up to Flagstaff, you end up at about 7,000 feet. So we're talking about flat sections of freeway as well as some pretty significant grades going up to Flagstaff. So hopefully I can answer some questions for those of you who are looking at the new Jeeps, trying to figure out if they'd be a good fit for you. We're going to cover my impressions of how the Jeep does comfort-wise. We're going to talk about noise level in there, and then also how she did gas mileage-wise. So if that interests you, stick around. We'll cover that next. And if you're new to the channel, please check out my playlists. I've got a few different cars that I cover on here. So let's get started, and thank you so much for watching. My Jeep is a 2020 Willys edition, and if you're not familiar with that edition, really the big things that you need to consider that will affect what we're talking about today are the 31-inch off-road tires, and then it has 373 gears in the rear end. Beyond that, there are different packages for interior and things like that that can improve comfort. But for the most part, those are the things to consider when we talk about what we're dealing with today. So let's start off talking about comfort. Again, it's about 4.5 hours from my home up to Flagstaff. And honestly, no real problems at all as far as comfort goes. The one thing about the Jeeps is the driving position is excellent. There's great visibility all around. The controls are all in the right place, easy to get to, easy to use. There's voice controls as well if you like using that kind of thing. Mine has Apple CarPlay, which is great for navigation if you need it. As far as the seats go, there's certainly nothing to write home about, but they're very adjustable, and I didn't have any issues with back pain or legs going numb or anything like that. It's certainly more than adequate as far as for a 4-hour drive. So really no complaints at all. Comparing it to my Crosstrek, which we do a lot here just because that's kind of where my channel started, I would say I feel similar comfort-wise for that short of a trip. Can't really say that one is better than the other one. But overall, no problems in that area as far as I'm concerned. So let's talk noise level. I'm smiling because it's taken me like 5 times to say that. But essentially, I get a lot of questions about the oversized tires on the Willys, the 31-inch off-road tires. And I have to say, honestly, they're really not bad at this point. They are probably a little louder than a normal tire, but when you compare those to the BFG KO2s on my Crosstrek, at this point, they're definitely less noisy. And there's only 6,000 miles on them at this point, but I really have no complaints about the tires. That could change as they break in, but as of now, they're fine. I don't have any problems with them. Really the big thing that you're gonna hear in the Jeep is wind noise. When you're putting a block with a 90-degree windshield almost through the air, you're bound to get wind noise, and you get a little bit on the mirrors and a little bit in the A-posts. But it's not a problem having a conversation. You don't have to crank the radio like crazy to hear each other. Now, it's certainly not a Cadillac, it's not quiet, but it was better than I thought it would be for that amount of time. Again, if you're new to the channel, I had a 2005 Rubicon, and compared to that vehicle, it's definitely better noise-wise for sure. So the big question I get on the Jeep is, what kind of miles per gallon do you get? And my Jeep is the V6. And obviously now they have a 4-cylinder turbo, and they also have some kind of hybrid as well. And I don't know a lot about the hybrid. I haven't looked at it much, but I know that it will go a certain amount of miles, I think, just on electric power. I've been averaging around town here in Tucson, which I don't really do stoplight to stoplight all that often, but I average about 20 miles per gallon. And in fact, I think my total miles per gallon over the 6,000 miles right now is like 19.9, 19.8. I haven't looked at Trip B in a while. So it's really not bad around town, especially when I compare that to the 16 miles per gallon I got in my Rubicon. Compared to the Crosstrek, I would usually get between 26 and 28, just normal driving if I wasn't being careful. Freeway wise, we're gonna break this up into sections. So from Tucson to Phoenix, again, it's pretty flat and a little bit downhill. And from my home, which is on southeast side of Tucson, which means I have to drive across town for about 30 minutes, stoplight to stoplight, to the north side of Phoenix to Anthem is where I usually stop. And Anthem is basically right before you start climbing and going into the grades, getting up to Flagstaff, which is at 7,000 feet. So from Tucson to Anthem, I average 24 miles per gallon, which to me is awesome. I think it's great. The new Jeeps have, or at least some of them have, the 8-speed automatic, and it really is a nice transmission. I have no complaints about that at all. It's very smooth, and it really kind of gets you into that override gear to improve mileage quite a bit. It also has start-stop. Clearly, you don't use it on the freeway, but that's something that they've done as well to try to improve mileage. From Anthem up to my buddy's house, that mileage dropped to 21.8. And again, you're looking at about 7% grades, and my average speed was probably around 80. Speed limit 75 here in town. Anyway, gas mileage really isn't all that bad. It's certainly not a vehicle you would buy to get good gas mileage in, but again, referencing back to old Jeeps, it does pretty good. I have no complaints about 21.8 miles per gallon, especially with the speeds I was going and the grades that you have to climb to get up the flag. Now, reversing that, coming from Flagstaff back to Anthem, again, a lot of downgrades there, or downhills. I averaged 22 to Anthem, and then all the way home, it ended up being 21.9. I didn't get the 24 from Phoenix back to Tucson, and it seems like anytime we've ever taken a trip in any of the vehicles we own, it's always less from Phoenix back to Tucson. And again, I think it's because it's just a very slight grade, and there was a pretty significant headwind on the way home that day. So that's kind of plays into it as well. So while filming this, I just realized I wanted to mention something else real quick. It's something I've mentioned in some of my other videos, and if you've been reading about the new Jeeps, you've probably heard about some of the steering issues that they've had. And I mentioned that there's a little bit of vagueness to the steering at freeway speeds. And it's a very difficult thing to explain, but I don't have death wobble, I don't have any of the other things that they've talked about and some of the problems that the Jeeps have had as far as weird steering. Basically, it's just, it feels like you have to move the wheel a little bit before you get response. It's very slight, but at speed, it's noticeable. A lot of the suggestions that people give is to reduce the PSI of your tires, because mine were at like 42 or 43, I think, when I got them from the factory. So I'm down around 36 now, and it has helped a little bit. And I will say on this trip, and really one of the most important things I want to tell you guys is that I really didn't notice that vague steering that much this time. And I still have not gotten my replacement steering damper that's on back order through Jeep. But I don't know if I'm getting used to it or if it is the lower tire pressures. Whatever it is, I really did not notice it on this trip. You can easily drive if you like to with one hand on the wheel with your elbow on the windowsill. Anyway, that was one of the things I wanted to add that I'd forgotten to put down on my list before I started filming this. So important to note that I did not experience much of that at all on this trip. And if that's a concern of yours, I think they are still having issues with steering with the Jeeps, but it has definitely improved since 2018 when this new model came out. Let's wrap this up with just basically my overall impressions of freeway stuff here. First and foremost, if I were going to have to commute 2 hours, 4 hours every day, most likely this is not the vehicle I would purchase. As a daily driver, I find it to be awesome around town. I have zero issues with it in that regard, other than obviously gas mileage it would be nice to get better mileage. There is a 4-cylinder turbo option that does get 3 or 4 miles per gallon better than the V6. However, you do have to pay for premium fuel, and under the current circumstances here, you notice gas prices are going up dramatically. So I think in the end, the difference you pay for premium, you're probably only saving maybe 1-2 miles per gallon, but it's hard to say. I haven't calculated it out. If you're somebody that's looking at the Jeep trying to figure out, okay, is this a car I can live with every day? And this is where I was about 6 months ago. Is it going to work as a daily driver? If I have to drive on the freeway, is it going to work? And the answer to those questions for me is absolutely it will. Again, I don't take 8-hour trips all the time. I don't take 4-hour trips all the time. But to get to a trail and to have a vehicle that will allow me to go off-road comfortably, safely, and even kind of push the limits that I'm comfortable with, it's a great vehicle for that. And I have no complaints. I would highly recommend it. If you're looking for a Jeep, if you used to own a Jeep in the past, you know, say like me in 2005, these things are way improved and a way better driving experience, and I think worth it. Hopefully I covered everything. I'm sure I probably forgot a few things. If you have questions or comments, you can leave those below, or if you want to share your experiences, you can always email me if you have detailed questions, and I'm happy to help in any way that I can if possible. So if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.